Hello everyone, it's the morning. Welcome back to another vlog. Don't know why I'm being so expressive. It is very early in the morning. It's like 8:30, I believe. But today we're going to hit the ground running with this riding. Like I said yesterday, I kind of lost track of it. And I really want to jump in and try and get ahead or at least catch up to where I should be. So I'm hoping to do at least chapter 2 and 3 today. Hopefully chapter 4. Maybe even chapter 5 if I get in a really good groove. I do have an appointment at 1, so that will put a little bit of a kink in things, but we're going to start off right now. I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to have some breakfast, and I'm just going to get straight into it. So the next update you'll see is after the next chapter. Hopefully. Cross your fingers. Weet-Bix. Oh, I just realized how much milk I put in. What the fuck? We're going to be watching some bloody tips and tricks for writing horror, just to get my brain in the mood. A lot of this stuff is kind of just common sense and stuff I've already implemented, but worth checking out, just keeping our brain kind of intact and making sure that, we're staying on top of it. Decided to turn that video off. I don't really vibe with those overproduced bloody cartoon ones that are like just made by a company or whatever. I kind of just prefer someone who actually writes. They may write, I don't know, I don't want to be super judgmental, but I usually just prefer to watch someone sitting down and talking about it. So switch the video. Hopefully we get some good tidbits. So this is the video I'm watching. This is Lindy Young. I watched her other video about horror writing tips back when I was doing It Came From The Mountains. So bloody full circle. Go sub if you see this or if you're not already. I don't know, she's pretty cool. Anyway, I'm probably going to cut this video short. I finished my breakfast. I'm ready to bloody get going. So it's like 9 o'clock now or so. So we're going to bloody zoom. We got bloody zoom. So I'm hoping before my meeting I can get chapter 2 and 3 done. I will update you after each chapter just to see where we're at, word count, that sort of stuff, and maybe talk a little bit about the story. Now, the thing with this story is, like I said, it has to do with 35mm photography, and it's inspired by a bunch of different things. So the key inspirations are things like Final Destination 3, if you know, you know, with the camera, things like Say Cheese and Die, the old Goosebumps story. Like there's a lot of inspiration like that. So I'm really trying to hopefully do something different with it, so it's not just retreading the same thing. And I think mixing them together will kind of have that effect, hopefully. And then there's a little other element that is kind of like the reveal of the story, so I won't go into that because that's a massive spoiler, but yeah. One thing as well, with these being novellas instead of full-on novels, I don't have as much time to kind of flesh characters out and all that sort of stuff, so I really just have to like leave it to like a sentence description max, and that's something I really struggle with because in my novel Melody Drive, I spend so much time fleshing out these characters, giving them little quirks, and I really do think it paid off, and based on the reviews I've gotten, I think that is the case. But having to do that in like a third of the time is kind of crazy. Not even a third. So having to condense all of that into something the 10th of a size is a challenge, but it's also very productive. Because when I get around to writing my next, full-on 90,000+ word novel, I feel like that's really going to come in handy because then I'm going to be able to fit so much more information into, the same amount of words. For example, with Melody Drive, if I took like a chapter to do something, I may be able to do that in half a chapter, but just as effectively, if not more, and then I still have that other half of the chapter to, continue. Or, I just pack it with so much more detail that it just really elevates the scene as a whole. So that's my goal, and that's kind of the primary use case of what I'm doing here. As well as, I love horror, I love all this sort of stuff, I love Goosebumps, like I said yesterday. So putting all that out there is, the goal, the primary goal, I guess. But the primary outcome for me personally will be an elevated skill set, a new writing style that I feel is much more, catered towards me and how like I think about stories and how I kind of tell stories. Third person past tense is how most people tell stories. But first person present tense, no one really talks like that. No one goes around saying like, I grab the PlayStation controller, I pull it up to the camera and twist it around. You know, like no one ever does that, and obviously, you know, it's not that basic in the book, but I do kind of want to shy away from that style because in writing this, I found out I much prefer third person past tense. So I'm definitely going to be utilizing that a lot more because you can fit so much more detail. And I come from like a film background, but yeah, I've always been interested in film. The way that the way that showcases emotion and the creative ways that like the framing, that it really like sets a vibe, sets the atmosphere, and I love that. So I really wanted to replicate that with my writing. And don't get me wrong, I think I did do a decent job with Melody Drive, but it was my first novel. I had never written anything beforehand. I had to do so much editing to bring it up to a serviceable point, thanks to the beta readers and all that sort of stuff that helped me out. With this, I feel like the style is much better. I feel like I'm able to get much more, for lack of a better word, cinematic scenes in there with more detail, more description. Because it's not set in somebody's brain, I'm able to describe things that maybe they wouldn't notice, you know. So, for example, in chapter 1 of 35mm, the book I'm writing now, they walk into this dingy old camera shop, and, you know, there's comments about how dusty it is, the smell. One of the characters wipes their finger along, and there's like a little puff of dust that causes someone to sneeze. All that sort of stuff, which can happen in first person present tense, but I feel like it's so much more long winded. You know, you have to have the character looking at it and narrating it constantly, otherwise the first person present tense doesn't really work. So yeah, it's kind of, it just gives you a little bit more freedom to fill the story with more detail, and ultimately that's kind of the goal. So yeah, this is really working out well, I think, and I'm excited to keep going. But without further ado, I'm bloody wasting time. Let's get into chapter 2. Chapter 2 is done. I'm sitting here in my bedroom, got the lovely sun coming through, got some fresh air coming in because that's always important. If you're stuck inside all day, at least open a window to get some fresh air in. If you can't get sun because of the weather, get some bloody fresh air in, because not having fresh air is the quickest way to go bloody stir crazy. Talk about cabin fever, far out. Now, it's about 12 o'clock. I spent a lot more time on that chapter than I thought, but it was a pretty important one. Like I said, with everything being so condensed, every chapter really matters, and this is kind of where we get the big realization that something is up and something's going on. So it was pretty important, so I wanted to make sure I kind of, not nailed it first try, obviously, but I wanted to make sure I got closer to where I thought it would end up. In the final product. So I spent a bit more time finessing the prose and all that sort of stuff. So chapter 2 is done, clocked in at about 1900 words, I believe, maybe 1920 or something. So so far averaging around, you know, that 1900 mark, which is good, which is very good. It Came from the Mountains was, I think, an average of 1500 per chapter. So if I can keep up this 1900 per chapter, you know, I could get, I don't know, 10, maybe 11 chapters in and hit like the 20 plus thousand word mark, which is kind of the goal. I do want them to be a lot shorter, obviously, but I still want to hit like a pretty decent word count overall. With Melody Drive, which again was like a full novel, I think the average word count was 2,500 to 3,000 words. I think closer to 2,500 per chapter. And, you know, over 35 chapters, that worked out to be like 110,000 words or whatever it was, maybe 109,000. I don't actually remember. But yeah, that was the average for that one, and I am keeping that way lower for these because I don't want, you know, a book this thick and then have, you know, 5 chapters. You know, I want it to still feel like a decent length. I want it to feel like bite-sized and accessible, if that makes sense. So I'm definitely adjusting that. With another full novel project that I'm working on, I won't say much about that just yet because it's still very early stages. But with that project, I'm averaging around 3,000 words. So it seems like, you know, scaling the word count depending on the project, per chapter at least, really does help with segmenting it and keeping up the pacing. Because, you know, if you have a book that's this thick, longer chapters are fine, you know, because when you finish a chapter, it's going to be taken out more and it feels like not as... Oop. The wind just blew my door shut. But yeah, it feels like it's not as big of a task. Whereas, if I was to have an average of 1,500 words on a book that was this thick per chapter, then each chapter would like take out like this much. It would really feel like you're not doing much at all. So scaling the word count per chapter seems to be a really good tactic that I've seen some good results in. But regardless, I have the appointment that I have to get to, so I'm just going to go get ready, get to that. Then I'm going to come back and try and knock out at least chapter 3. I definitely won't be getting 4 and 5 done today. That's a bit much, but at least chapter 3. I was also thinking after this appointment, I might stop in, clear my brain a little bit it's very dark in here. What the hell? That's not much better, but oh well, at least we got some bloody fresh air and light coming in here. As I was saying, I'm thinking of after the appointment maybe clearing my brain a little bit. Like I said, I did spend a little bit more time on that chapter than I originally thought, so my brain's kind of a bit foggy at the moment. So yeah, I'm thinking of maybe stopping at the basketball court, shooting some hoops, bloody just clearing my brain a little bit, maybe even for just like half an hour. Especially if I'm scaling back my goal for today, because a lot of people, they say, 2,000 words a day is like a really good amount. And I'm kind of at that 2,000 point, and I want to do at least one more chapter, so I'll be around 4,000 words, and I still think that's a very healthy amount. I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to burn myself out, especially on such a short project. But getting at least one more chapter out, I'll feel really good, and I think if I go clear my head a little bit, just think on what can happen next, I think that'll be very good for the final product. All right, so appointment is done, and I just finished chapter 3. Thankfully, it actually turned out to be a phone appointment, so I didn't actually have to go anywhere. We love that. We love staying inside, but it just made it so much quicker. I finished the appointment, jumped straight back into writing, and yeah, just finished chapter 3. So clocked in at just under 1,500 words. So a few hundred words less than what I was aiming for, which is like that 2,000 mark. But it had a very natural stopping point, and I didn't want to inflate it just to hit that mark, I still want to average around 2,000 wherever I can. I just don't want to push it past its natural stopping point, As you guys can see, the weather is actually very nice right now. So I think I'm going to call it there for writing, at least for the moment. Maybe when I get back, I will, write some more, try and finish chapter 4. Who knows? I might be able to do it. I'm going to be going to the basketball court now. First time going by myself. It's going to be interesting. But hopefully the court's not full and I go all the way there for nothing. But either way, I hit pretty much all the goals I wanted to hit today, did the appointment and finished at least chapter 2 and 3. I'm going to attempt to do chapter 4. That's not going to be on the vlog because as soon as I get back, I'm going to have to be cooking dinner and I don't want to be vlogging that again. That was a bit crazy. So basically what I'm trying to say is that is the end of the vlog. And I'm sorry if it was a little boring. I kind of just did everything here, did everything off camera. But you know what? It is what it is. Some days are just like that. You got to take each day as it comes. So I'm going to go now. Maybe I'll get some footage. But until then, when will I see ya? I'll see you in a couple days. Sweet.